Hello, Socialist Links here. Today I wanted to make a video on black struggle and capitalism. I wanted to essentially make this video, especially since the entirety of the elections is coming up soon, and especially since the BLM protests have been dying down and have been essentially becoming more and more peaceful, instead of actually becoming as militant and becoming as of an actual proletarian struggle as I warned. That should have happened. It did not happen, unfortunately, and so I wanted to essentially make kind of like a video here where we talk about kind of like black struggle and like what led to the struggle between blacks, and just the working class and its struggle with capitalism, and especially kind of like on how this essentially developed further, and why the entirety of the institution of the police and the entirety of the capital system won't essentially help out with black communities and won't help out with Black Lives Matter. Uh, this video is probably gonna be relatively short, and if not, then you are gonna be in for a treat. But yeah, stick around, and hopefully you probably learned something new. That, or if you as a black person, or if you as a person of color, could be watching this, then hopefully you can be able to see just kind of like a lot of these things, and how and look at it like a brighter view, or like a wider view of what is essentially going on. And if there's anything that anyone would like to say, then yes, please comment into the video. Anyways, without further ado, let's get started. Black struggle, police brutality, and division of the higher class and the lower class has been a very big thing in our political situation in the United States since May of 2020, when Ahmaud Arbery was brutally murdered by white nationalists and sympathized with the state. Protests and demands were called out, wanting justice for the murder, but little policy has been made to change it. People recognize this, but because of the liberal commodification of the BLM movement, the Democratic Party of the United States shielded and refused to take action. Until the community saw this and went away from this liberalization um, when the same month George Floyd was murdered by an armed bureaucrat working for the institution made by the state, a cop/police officer. For the first time in a very long time, workers, black, white, Hispanic, Asian descent, all races, united outside of the liberal region, organized as workers against the state. So, how is this a fall of capitalism? How does this relate to anything of the class of employers? And what can help? This is the fall of capitalism for the reason blacks, and especially black workers, face this kind of oppression in the first place. The reason being is because of the biggest fight of politics in the United States in history that would possibly see the American continent divided and regress to a slave remain and a full industrialized capital driven the economy, or a united country by a latter part of economics. Of course it was the latter. When the American Civil War ended, during this time, the economy of the southeast of the United States left a huge gap for control for the new freed slaves, means of production, and their social freedom as well, creating businesses that would employ them and turn them into workers, selling their labor power for a wage. These workers would now produce commodities and have their employers sell them to a market and get paid, then calculate the materials to make that product, the expenses to continue the workday, the necessities needed to increase business, and to pay the workers money so that way they can feel compensated. Thus, when they give the worker a wage in this instance, they have to cut the actual value of labor time performed to pay the worker a wage and to continue the workday as well, because they have to look out for the business. In a simplified way of saying it, you don't get paid what you actually put into the work for the day, and your employer will pay you the lowest amount possible for you to work. This applies to all work done in capitalism by all workers. What's different with black workers? Because they are the ones part of the working class of the United States, and usually are the ones that get this problem a lot more. After the American Civil War, blacks had to start working in jobs with extremely long time and suffer through horrible conditions in the workplace. Worst of all, they would usually be harassed by their employers and even fellow co-workers when employers would post messages of African American racism and stereotype them to be criminals and horrible people, leaving the workers divided and having the petty bourgeois, the petty employers, to fight for regression back to the old times, which causes ideas like nationalism and fascism to come about. Let's flash forward to close to our modern day. The U.S. government in its time has started toughing blacks, sending drugs into their communities, associating them with illegal drugs, and started killing them and brutalizing them left and right. They would leave a lot of blacks who wanted freedom and their conditions better into prison and would even kill them as well. What we have to understand here is that this problem won't go away by just defunding the police or any armed bureaucratic institution made by the state. This kind of oppression was happening way before there was funding for the police. The funding of the police just made it easier. Black workers are still working long and hard hours. They are still getting paid less than what they are worth, and they have been suffering from this ever since the liberal revolution in America in the North and the end of the American Civil War in the South. Before the Civil War, it was a lot worse too. Before the Civil War, it was a lot worse too. Of course, with slavery. But that's not the fucking point. The point is that exploitation is still fucking happening. Worst part of all of this is usually justified and even ignored by the employers that look to the Republicans and quote unquote Democrats alike. Even in a worse way, too, where the Democrats would commodify their struggle and have workers produce products to be exchanged in the market, sell that product, and do the math, as we pointed out earlier, and then pay them a wage, doing the exact same kind of oppression that faces them in the first place. Of course, this problem is somewhat the same with more white decent descendant workers as well, but blacks face the most of this when they are the ones trying to fight this. What needs to be done now is for workers, black and white, to fight for their rights and fight to end their struggle. We have seen this happen before and we are seeing it today. Abandon the bureaucratic state and parties that cause this to happen. Abandon any organizing in the employer's reach. If you would like to vote for a candidate this year for the election, then you should vote for Howie Hawkins and Walker and the Walker ticket for Socialist Party. But we have to do better than that. Organize councils made up of workers. Get these councils under the line of workers' liberation. Get them involved with workers' communities and fight for their rights. Organize into a party made up of workers where these councils can answer to a democratic yet central power to organize more. Talk to your fellow coworkers. Get them organized in this line as well. We as workers can fight for our own lives and arm ourselves and together take this system down by joining party of the proletariat, by organizing the party of the proletariat for better lives and a better world. We must organize in this struggle and fight for our lives. Fight for socialism, fight for communism, and fight for your own control on your production. Fight for your liberation. Workers of the world unite. Black and white, all must fight. Lincoln's proclamation is even more important than the Maryland campaign. Lincoln is a sui generis figure in the annals of history. Phi has no initiative, no idealistic impetus, quantus, nor no historical trappings. He gives his most important actions always the most commonplace form. Other people claim to be fighting for an idea when it is for them a matter of square feet of land. Lincoln, even when he's motivated by an idea, talks about square feet. He sings the Bravia aria of his part of hesitantly, reluctantly, and unwillingly, as though apologizing for being compelled by circumstances to act the lion. the most redoubtable decrees, which will always remain remarkable, historical documenting flung by him at the enemy, all look like and are intended to look like a routine summons sent by a lawyer to the lawyer of the opposing party, legal charities involved by the hidebound actions jurors. His latest proclamation, which is drafted in the same style, the Manifesto abolishing slavery, is the most important document in American history since the establishment of the Union. Tenement to the tearing tip of the old American Constitution. End quote. Karl Marx comments on the North American events. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, then hit the like button down below. I very much appreciate it. And if you're new to my channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like what I do, then yeah, definitely hit the subscribe button. Share this video to others that essentially would possibly like to see this, or that you essentially just like to share it at all. And yeah, thank you for watching this video. And I hope you have a good day, and hope you have a good time around this time. So yeah. So yeah, goodbye.